We recently came back from our very first river cruise, and I have to be honest with you, before going on this river cruise, as much as we were very curious, we also had some preconceived notions and some things that were perhaps some concerns. Now, this included, would our river cruise be too boring? Would it be too slow paced? Would we be some of the younger people on the river cruise? And what would the overall experience be like? Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, if this is your first river cruise that you are thinking of, this video is going to be very helpful because you probably have a lot of the same questions that I had. Now, something that I was wondering is, would this cruise be a little bit too slow paced for us? What would we think of the excursions? What would we think of the activities and the entertainment on a river cruise ship? And even what would we think of the food, dining, and drinks? Now, just to let you know, we were on board AmaWaterways AmaMagna for a 7-night Danube River Cruise. Now, while this is going to be a review of our cruise, and I'm going to share with you what we loved and what we didn't love as much, as well as what surprised us, it also is going to be full of practical information and tips and tricks that you could use no matter which river cruise ship that you are on. Now, by the way, AmaWaterways invited us on this cruise. However, all opinions are my own. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Okay, so first an overview of our river cruise ship. We were on board AmaWaterways AmaMagna, which is an absolutely beautiful ship. And it is approximately twice as wide as most other river cruise ships. Now, it is 443 feet long and 72 feet wide, with 98 staterooms and a maximum passenger capacity of 196 with 70 crew. Now, just to let you know, our cruise was mid-August, and we were told that there were approximately 164 passengers and 75 crew members. Now, our Danube River Cruise started in Vilshofen, Germany, and ended in Budapest, Hungary. Now, we flew into Munich 2 days before our cruise, which I highly recommend because you do want to have time to acclimate to the time change, but you also want to have a little bit of time to explore and get your bearings. Now, we had a really nice time in Munich. Of course, we did have to have schnitzel. We had to have some beer. We had to have some pretzels. We had to have some sausage. That was all really nice. We went to the Hofbrauhaus. We went to see cathedrals. We saw the Glockenspiel, and we just had a nice time shopping and exploring and seeing all of the sights. Now, on the day of the cruise, we took a transfer through AmaWaterways that brought us directly from Munich to Vilshofen, which was approximately an hour-and-a-half drive. Embarkation. Now, embarkation was fast and easy and really stress-free. So we boarded our river cruise ship, and just to let you know, our luggage was taken and delivered to our cabin, and it took only a few minutes. So by the time we finished with reception, our luggage was already delivered to our cabin, which was absolutely wonderful. So we did our check-in, we got our cruise card, and this is something pretty important because you'll not only use your cruise card or your key card to open your cabin door, but you'll also use your key card when you go on and off the ship. Now, we took a quick look at our cabin, but then we wanted to look around the cruise ship. So we went up to the sun deck, and AmaMagna is absolutely beautiful. We saw the hot tub and the pool and the jogging track and the pickleball track, and even some herbs that were growing in a garden. We took a quick peek at the lobby, the lounges, the al fresco restaurant, and the dining room. Now, I always like to unpack right away on embarkation day, but I will show you both our cabin, which was a balcony cabin, and Ethan's cabin, which had windows, a little bit later on in this video. Now, our embarkation day was different than any other embarkation day I ever had, because we had a pretty exciting activity coming up. I was really looking forward to it. But first, we did have a welcome reception in the lounge. Now, it turns out that the lounge would be somewhere that we spent quite a lot of time during our cruise. But during this welcome reception, we got an idea of what to expect. We met our cruise manager, the hotel director, the captain, and some of the other crew members. Oktoberfest. Now, I didn't know what to expect when it came to the Oktoberfest, but this was a lot of fun. So Oktoberfest did not happen on our cruise ship, but this was an activity that was happening basically right at the dock. Now, as we walked into the Oktoberfest, we were given beer. And by the way, for anybody who prefers to have wine, they did give us sort of cups of wine that we could take from the cruise ship. But you know what? I was at the Oktoberfest and when in Rome. So I did actually have some beer and it was quite good. They also had some pretzels. This was a really nice time, you know, to sit and even talk with some of the other people if you wanted to from the cruise ship. They had some games, they had some dancing, and it really got our Danube River Cruise off to a great start. Now, as I mentioned, our cruise was leaving from Vilshofen, and we actually stayed overnight. So I am going to be sharing throughout the video, and maybe towards the end, I am going to be sharing with you what excursions we did in each of the different cruise ports of call. And just something to let you know is I do have all of the daily planners. So I am also going to leave them in sort of a document or a blog post down below in the description of this video as well, in case that can be helpful. All right, now I am going to be talking about dining soon, but first I did want to share our cabins with you. Our cabins, Frank and I had an SB outside balcony cabin on deck 2. I actually loved the location. It was very convenient, not too far from the dining room and reception. Now, I loved our balcony cabin. In fact, when we walked in, I was amazed at how spacious it was. You had this little entryway at the very front where you had the bathrooms, and you actually had these doors that opened and closed if you did want to close off this area. And the main room was very spacious. You had the couch and you had a little coffee table. You also had a desk that I did work at times, and the storage was so plentiful. So all along the wall underneath the TV, there were really great spacious deep drawers. You also had cupboard space with shelves, a little mini fridge, and closet space with lots of hangers. Now the bathroom was super spacious. We actually had 2 sinks, and the shower, as an aside, not only was it large, and the shower head and water pressure were excellent. Now in this cabin, something that's a little bit unique is that the toilet is actually a separate room, and that is separate from the bathroom. Now we also had a lovely walkout balcony with 2 chairs and a little table. Now I will share something that's unique and a little bit of an experience when you have a balcony on a river cruise, but that will come a little bit later. Now Ethan had a window cabin, and truthfully, as much as it's nice to have a balcony, if you are on a little bit more of a budget, this is definitely a great option, especially if you don't think that you're going to be spending much time in the cabin. Now, his bed was very comfortable. He also had a desk in his cabin. He had a very spacious bathroom, and he was very pleased. Now, I did get a chance to check out a couple of other cabins later on during the cruise, including an absolutely gorgeous suite, but I will share that in case you are interested towards the end of the video. Food and dining. Now, food and dining was definitely different than what we expected in many ways, and partially that's because we've been on ocean cruises before, and there were some things that I absolutely loved, and there was one little thing that I didn't like as much. Now, first, just to let you know, on AmaMagna, you actually have 4 different restaurants that you can go to, and in particular in the evening. So the first evening of our river cruise, we started off in the main dining room, and we really found the menu to be very nice. So every evening you had choices of menu items that would change, but you also had a couple of dishes that were always available. Now, the other restaurants that you can go to in the evening include Jimmy's, which is a family style restaurant that does serve a menu that is the same as the main dining room. You also have Chef's Table that we absolutely loved. In fact, there was some room towards the end of the cruise, so we went twice. It was that good. And there is also Al Fresco's, which is a very nice restaurant that is located at the front of the ship. Now, something that surprised us is that for dinner in particular, everybody is basically eating at the same time. Now, this could be 7 o'clock p.m. or 7:30 p.m. It can change slightly from one day to the other, and they will let everybody know. But everybody is eating at their respective restaurant. at the same time. But something that is very good on AmaMagna, and I know a lot of people do wonder about this, is that you could sit with your own party. So if you want to sit just 2 people, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to sit with other people and make some new friends, you can do that as well. Now, the main dining room ended up being our favorite place to eat for dinner because the food really was very good. We found the food to be excellent. A lot of nice regional specialties and classic dishes that we really appreciated. Now, when it came to the breakfast menu, there were about 7 different nice choices. And you had a buffet that was in the middle as well that you can pick up fresh fruits, pastries, cheeses, and more. Now, in addition to the main dining room, you also had breakfast available in the bistro, and you can have lunch in the bistro as well. Now, the bistro had a nice, more casual menu. So if you did want to have that beautiful forward view, you could eat there. Now, we did have pizza and hamburgers one day, but I have to be honest, I still think I preferred the main dining room where you had more options and you could still order a hamburger or a pizza there as well. Now, by the way, something else that I really liked when we were dining is the fact that beer and wine was included during our meals, and specialty coffee, any juices were always available at breakfast or any other time. Now, I am going to talk more about the drinks in just a minute, but I did want to share what other food is available. So what food is available in between meals? Well, you do have afternoon tea that is available in the afternoon, but to be honest, we were never on the cruise ship for afternoon tea, or if we were probably in our cabin or doing something else. So I miss that. But there is late night food that is available between 10 and 11 o'clock p.m. if I'm not mistaken. That is available in al fresco, which is quite nice because it's just right in front of the main lounge. So if you are there and you're hanging out in the evening, you can go get a quick little snack and bring it right back. Now, in the evening when we were in Vienna, which by the way, we did leave the ship and we went to a concert, we came back and they had prepared a special Austrian buffet for us with late night snacks that included goulash and sausages and little sandwiches and more. Now, I feel like I'm talking about food forever, but it's a big part of cruising. So just to let you know, specialty coffee is included on AmaWaterways, and we had a couple of coffee machines that we could use to make cappuccino, Americanos, and more. And you did have a little cookie jar that was there, so you could take cookies at any time of day. Now, I will share a tip with you that somebody else shared with me, and that is that if you think you like to snack in between meals, truthfully, we were off the ship so much during the day that this never really occurred to us too much. But if you do think that you might want to snack, you can also bring some snacks back to your room and you can keep them in your cabin. Sip and sail hour. Now, this ended up being one of my favorite times of every day. A nice chance to just unwind before dinner. And you did have certain drinks that were free of charge, sort of like a happy hour. So you have wine, Prosecco, or champagne, as well as beer, and you also had select alcoholic drinks as well as select mocktails. Daytime activities. Now, during the day on a river cruise, you have some amount of time that you're going to spend, sailing into your next port of call, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is an activity in itself to look at the castles and to look at the abbeys and to look at just the shoreline and to see what's going on and even to go through the locks. But in addition to that, there are some activities available both to do on your own as well as organized. Now, some of the daytime activities included port and excursion talks, a photo taking workshop where you could learn how to take better photos with your iPhone or your Samsung, a craft activity. I actually did this one where I was coloring a little pop-up card. That was a lot of fun. And a strudel making demonstration. Now, there's also a nice gym or a wellness center where there are classes available with a trainer. That can even start early in the morning if you like, but there are different classes that are available throughout the day. Now, in addition to that, if you want to work out on your own, there are bicycles, a treadmill, and other equipment, as well as a nice size jogging or walking track on the sun deck. Now, something that I really liked is the pool and the hot tub. We actually went in on the second day, but to be honest, I didn't see many people using it. But one thing that a lot of people were really using on the top deck is the pickleball court. This was very popular. So whether you want to play or you want to people watch, this was a lot of fun. Now, something that I wondered before our cruise is, Would the ship feel too small? Would there be enough things to do on the ship? But something I didn't take into account is the fact that every single day we are visiting a destination, and that is really the focus of a river cruise. So for the times that we were on the ship for a few hours while we were sailing or going through the locks, we were absolutely occupied and having a good time. Now, I do want to share with you my thoughts on the evening activities, the service, and who I think this cruise is for. But first, I did want to share with you what we did in the cruise ports of call. Now, I did need these to keep me on track so that I could remember everything that we did. So like I said, we started off in Vilshofen. Now, just to let you know, something we did because we were there overnight is in the morning on the second day, we actually borrowed bicycles, which are included, by the way, with AmaWaterways. So they gave us bicycles and a helmet, and we drove through the village and along the Danube. It was really nice. And while we drove our bicycles, many other people just went and walked on their own into the little village, which you can absolutely do. Now, we sailed away from Vilshofen at around 11 a.m. and we arrived at our first destination in Passau, Germany around 3 p.m. Now, just to let you know, all excursions are included with AmaWaterways, and there are usually 3 to 4 different excursions that you can choose per day. Now, Frank and I decided to do the City of Three Rivers walking tour, which is a walking tour of the beautiful old town of Passau. This was quite nice because we got some information from the local guide about the town. We were also able to visit a beautiful cathedral, and then we had some free time on our own. Now, by the way, in your cabin, you're going to have something called a quiet box, which is a sort of listening device along with an earpiece that you're going to bring with you for all of your excursions so that you're able to hear the local guide. Now, Ethan did something different. He did an active excursion, and he did a hike to the Passau Fortress. Now, this was something, by the way, that we really liked about AmaWaterways and the excursions. Sometimes we did excursions, the 3 of us together, and other times Ethan chose something that was more active than what we would want to do, but there really is something for everyone. Now, the following day, we docked in Linz, Austria, and there were different excursions that were available, but we opted for the full day excursion to Salzburg. Now, the bus ride to Salzburg was about 2 hours, but I have to say, for us, it was absolutely worth it. And by the way, all of the transportation that we had on buses during our cruise, they were always very comfortable buses. So that was something nice. But we did a little stop at a gorgeous lookout. Our guide was local and very informative, so he gave us a lot of information about the region and about the sound of music as well. Now, although we did have a walking tour in Salzburg and then some free time on our own, we did ask our guide if it was okay with him if we did go off and explore on our own. There were some things that in particular we wanted to see and experience in Salzburg because Frank's father is originally from that area. Now, Salzburg did not disappoint. It was so incredibly beautiful. We ended up taking a funicular up to the Salzburg Fortress. The view was absolutely breathtaking. Now, we decided to eat lunch there, and this was another place that we ate schnitzel. We felt that we were just eating our way through Germany and Austria and eventually Budapest, but that was okay. We had schnitzel and we had a dessert called Salzburg Knockerl, which is a traditional berry souffle. Now, we walked around the historic streets of Salzburg and even stopped for a coffee so we could people watch, but we could not leave before we bought the original Mozartkugel chocolates that are only made and sold right here in Salzburg. If you bring home only one gift or souvenir for yourself or anybody else, this has to be it. Now, at the end of our day, we actually met our river cruise ship in Grein. So for other people who did a different excursion in the morning, they would actually have sailed onto Grein, but in our case, the bus actually just met the ship. Now, it's a good thing that we slept on the bus because after dinner, we did have another excursion. Now, while it was optional, it was definitely worth it. We had an exclusive visit to the Greinberg Castle with a private reception. So we met our guides at the front of the ship and we walked up to the castle. Now, there was also transportation available for those who weren't able to walk or didn't want to walk, but it was really very special. We had a guided tour and a short folklore performance. Now, the following day, we would actually be in 2 villages. So we started off the morning after a lovely breakfast and beautiful views. we were in the town of Melk. Now in Melk, we decided on the Benedictine Abbey hike, which really wasn't too difficult of a hike, but there was also a gentle walker's excursion as well, where you could be bussed up to the Abbey. Now we had a wonderful local guide, and she shared with us some of the really pleasant and some of the less pleasant parts of the history there. Now, as we got back to the cruise ship, we still had a little bit of time and the day was so beautiful. So we decided to borrow some bicycles and go bicycle riding along the Danube before lunch. Now, this ended up being one of the most special days of our cruise because we were sailing through the Wachau Valley. Now, this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and you're cruising by small villages, churches, and terraced vineyards. The only way that I can describe it is it was like you were sailing through a postcard that came to life. When our cruise ship docked in Krems, we had different excursions that we could choose. Ethan decided on a bike tour to Weisenkirchen, and this was, I think it might have been about 14 miles or maybe it was kilometers, but in any case, it was about a 3-hour bike ride. He really enjoyed it, whereas Frank and I decided on the Durnstein walking tour. This was a beautiful, picturesque village with cobblestone streets and apricot candies everywhere. And while Ethan continued on his bike tour, Frank and I opted for another excursion, which was the Spitz exclusive wine event. And this was basically a wine tasting excursion where there was local music and a lot of fun. Now we're going to get to our next port in Vienna and what excursions we did. But first I did want to share with you what are some of the evening activities and what did we think on the cruise ship. So just to let you know, after dinner, most of the time there was either dancing and music, and basically there was a lovely musical duo on our cruise ship, and they were pretty much the entertainment team. They did a phenomenal job. Now, usually they would play music both for sip and sail hour as well as for the evening after dinner. As well, they would sometimes DJ and host the evening, and there would be sometimes some trivia games that was a lot of fun. Now in Vienna, we did the Imperial Tour, and just to let you know, there are buses that will take you into Vienna. And at a certain time of the day, I think it might have been 2:30 p.m., there are also shuttle buses that'll take you to and from Vienna. So if you want to eat in Vienna and head back to the ship, or if you want to go back to the ship to eat something and then head out, you can definitely do that. Now, after our walking tour, we decided to explore on our own, and we did go to the Judenplatz Museum, and we did check out some of the Jewish heritage sites. We also decided to eat lunch in town, and Frank and I had some wonderful schnitzel. Somehow it's just a little bit different in every single town or village that we were in, and Ethan opted for pasta, which he hadn't had since we've gotten to Europe. Optional concert. Now, in the evening in Vienna, there was an optional concert, and this was the only excursion that there is an additional cost, and I think it was approximately $99. We just felt like if we are going to be there, this is something we'll probably do only once, so we definitely thought that this was worth it. So we took a bus from the ship, and they brought us over to the Mozart and Strauss concert. Now, due to copyright, I wasn't able to film it, but we really did enjoy it and are happy that we went. Now, like I mentioned earlier, when we got back, we actually had this Austrian buffet set up, and something that our guide on the bus told us is that it's very traditional in Vienna for people to go, I think that they called it sausage boxes. There's probably a better way to say that, so I'll put it on the screen, but basically having goulash and sausages. And so this is what they served us, which was a lot of fun and actually quite delicious. Now, we had one more day left of our cruise in Budapest, but before I get there, I did want to share with you what I thought about the service, who I think this cruise is for, but I also wanted to share some tips, some things that you might want to know. So firstly, something that is really cool is that on AmaWaterways, something that we got is Frank and Ethan got these nice baseball caps. And by the way, these are in the cabin. Everybody got them. So really nice. And something that I got, just lovely, is this absolutely stunning scarf. So really very beautiful. Now, also in the cabin, you're going to have bathrobes, slippers, and an umbrella. I think I might have mentioned that a little bit earlier. You have your daily planner that's available in paper form if you like. You might have to request that at reception. I did, but otherwise, the app is actually pretty good once you're on the cruise ship. Now, something that you're going to find at reception is they have postcards, and you could write your postcard and you could hand it right back to reception and they'll actually mail it for you. And something that you'll notice and appreciate is when you go to bed each evening, there's going to be a little chocolate left on your pillow. And something that I noticed is that the percentage of chocolate started off, I think it might have been at 42% or something like that, and it actually increases throughout the cruise to 70%. Now, I mentioned earlier that I would share some of the things that I loved and some of the things that I didn't love as much, and there was so much that I loved, including the fact that, of course, this was a great travel experience, the excursions all being included and so much being included. It made it feel like a very all-inclusive vacation and very fulfilling and also effortless at the same time. Really terrific. The only thing that I could say that was maybe something I liked a little bit less was the fact that for evening in particular, you really did have to make up your mind and know in advance where you were reserving your dinner for. And it makes a lot of sense. You're only on our cruise, we were, I think, 164 people. So it absolutely makes sense, but it is just something to be aware of. Now, what did we think about the service? The service was really very good. The staff was so personable. They were great. And one of the things that I really liked also is that the hotel director and the cruise manager, they actually didn't have their offices far away. They were right there in the lobby along with reception. So if you did need a chat with them or if you did need some assistance, they were right there to help. Now, I will share who else was sailing with us on our cruise, what the demographic was like, and who I think this cruise ship was for. Bratislava. Now, we actually only arrived in Bratislava around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which gave a lot of time in the morning to do some different activities. There was even an ice cream party. We could eat a leisurely lunch. It was really a bit of a pleasure, and we did enjoy the cruise ship, watching people play pickleball and more. Now, in Bratislava, we did a Coronation City walking tour, which brought us up to a palace, which was definitely something interesting. But I have to say, Bratislava was probably my least favorite destination during our river cruise, but it was still very interesting. And during our free time, we did go and have some pierogies. But I did hear from some other people that were on the Taste of Slovakia food tour that they really enjoyed that. Sailing into Budapest. Now, sailing into Budapest was absolutely magnificent. And we were very lucky because our cruise manager, John, when everybody was up on the sun deck, was there to let us know what we should be looking at and giving us a little bit of a history lesson, if you will, of Buda and Pest. Now, we were treated to a wonderful barbecue lunch. It was so festive and nice, and we just had this beautiful weather, and the food, of course, and the wine was wonderful. And then we would be going on a tour in the afternoon. Now, we opted for the Buda City tour, and just to let you know, we did stay an extra day in Budapest, so we knew that we could tour the other side or the side of Pest on our own the next day. So we opted for the tour of Buda, and this was very interesting. We had a great local guide who showed us around, and then we did have some free time. Now, I had one goal while we were in Budapest, and that was to get a chimney cake, which we did get, but I did make a little bit of a mistake because the chimney cakes can be huge. They were not cheap either. So we got two for the three of us, and we definitely could have opted for one instead. Now, I promised you that I would share those other suites with you. So we did go visit the Grand Suite, and this was quite beautiful. If you can imagine, there's actually a TV that comes up from a piece of furniture, and the bed is facing the window. It's absolutely gorgeous with an elongated balcony, very beautiful, and an absolutely stunning bathroom. And we also did take a look at one of the other balconies, which was nice as well. Now, we were also very lucky because docked next to us when we were in Budapest was AmaMora. So we were able to go on very briefly onto AmaMora and to film just a little bit. We were really curious what another river cruise ship would be like, one that is the regular width, if you will. And even though I absolutely love AmaMagna and I could recommend it, we realized we would be very happy on AmaMora as well. It was very beautiful and the cabins were really nice and bright. Now, just to let you know, in Budapest, we did stay at the Marriott on the Danube, which I do think is a very nice hotel and a very good location, so I can recommend it. And during our day in Budapest on our own, we visited quite a lot of sites, including the largest synagogue in Europe, the Jewish Museum, and some of the other important landmarks. We also went to have drinks and pizza with an absolutely gorgeous rooftop view, as well as eating more schnitzel and pastries. So who was sailing with us and who do I think this cruise was for? So firstly, let me tell you, I was absolutely wrong thinking that a river cruise is only for people that are retired or that are seniors. And not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but I actually think I was completely wrong because a river cruise could be for any age. And I think it could be more active than a lot of people think. Firstly, when you're in Europe, there's a lot of cobblestones, there's a lot of walking. Even the gangway has a little bit of, sometimes it could be a little bit steep. So the idea that it's for people that have mobility challenges, I would say that that is probably pretty false. But if you are average in terms of fitness and of any age or even active, you would be very happy on a river cruise. If you are somebody who loves to travel, a river cruise is an absolutely great way to travel. Now, on our cruise, I thought Ethan would be one of the youngest people on our cruise, but there were actually people that were younger than him. But it's definitely not a party cruise. There were quite a lot of people that were in, I would say, maybe their late 40s and early 50s, up until about 70 and beyond. So really a very diverse age group, but I was definitely in the median age and I am 54. And the truth is, this was really one of the best travel experiences and cruises that we have ever done. And I now completely understand why so many people love river cruising. And I definitely don't think there's an age for it. I do think it's for people who like to travel, who are well traveled, and I don't think that you can put an age to that. Now, I am going to leave my playlist about river cruises right after this, and I'm also going to leave those daily planners down in a blog post below in case that can be helpful. And I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know if you're planning on doing a river cruise. Please let me know if you have any questions that I can answer. Let me know down in the comments below. And you never know, maybe I will make another video. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.